Okay, so because it's on the camera side over here. Oh. Hey, there they are.
There's a nice chair. Just in time.
Just in time? Okay, good.
You are. No, come around here somehow, or over in there somewhere. You got to be on camera, right? So you need to be over there.
You're on camera?
If you don't want to be on camera, do that. I don't want to be on
Come on, Dave, be front and center. No.
Listen, there can't be two people.
I'm sorry. There you go.
No, no. I was referring to you.
Okay, where's the chair?
Okay, so just thought this morning there was a lot of stuff that came out yesterday. A lot of input from conversation, especially, and Stephen and Bob and whatever else that came out of it. So just thought an opportunity to kind of take what you've got out of it, or thoughts, or stuff that you want to throw into the mix, put it out on the table, and that kind of idea. That's what I thought we'd do this morning. Mm-hmm. How's that sound? Good. So we are streaming this live, and so we'll see what comes out of that as well. But for that reason, I'll pass the mic around, or maybe just throw it in the middle of the table. I don't know. We'll see how that goes technically. But let's try to keep ordered chaos in some kind of manner, and go from there. Is that cool? So who's up?
Wow. I will. Last night it was, as Ann and I were sharing, we just were so thankful after reading Stephen's War of the Lords and stuff, and to explain his positions or what he's learned, it took pages and pages of info. Dates, November 29th, 1981. I mean, I'm just giving an example, and I was led to do this and didn't find out till later. What we were excited about is his talk gave that 5 main bullet points. And it was just a reminder and condensing and those PowerPoints. And I really, really appreciated them yesterday. Isn't that kind of what we concluded?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So we're thankful, very thankful.
Yeah, I think it was good because, the night before I'd kind of asked him that, I think I was asking for principles or something like that. Like,
you did, and you got it.
Boil it down into something
concise
you can put your hand around or something like that.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Come on, don't be shy.
We're Canadians, it's in our blood.
Is that true?
You were, no.
No one ever accused me of being shy, I admit it. I love everyone until they don't like me, and then I'll back away.
I do have a question.
It's okay.
Versus, it's the same question I had when I first came here. As a Canadian group, I don't know if we should identify ourselves as a Canadian group or American group. I'm still confused on that. But where are we going to go from here as a group?
Good question.
Well, and I think that I haven't honestly had time to kind of really think that through.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have.
It might depend on the way the Lord leads.
Yeah, maybe we need time to digest this. Yeah.
Obviously, I won't be here for every meeting.
Yeah.
Or Beth may. Oh, no, you're
I'm not that far yet.
You're not that far.
But Did Stephen answer? Was that question addressed? No, to Stephen, and that was never answered. That's why
Yep.
I still don't know where
I
we
think what we
stand.
do know is that this isn't all about kind of all getting together. While there is nothing like kind of meeting one-on-one and all the rest of it,
Yes.
the fact is that's just not practical.
Yeah.
On a regular basis. And so that's where the technology comes into play. And having, whether it's a forum, whether it's whatever the structure of that is, and I think that's partly where Bob Henley's going with his thing, although I didn't throw it to him exactly whether or not he's planning on creating a forum for that. I don't quite get the sense that that's where he wants to go with it. But I don't think that's rocket science. That's probably just for someone to, whether it's a Facebook group or whether it's some kind of other forum to create a way to. I mean, I think what it's interesting. It was probably about a year ago that
Jack Layton, the late Jack Layton, passed, and I was reminded of that in the news. They're planning on having a memorial, that kind of thing, for memorial celebration for that. And so it was about a year ago when that kind of jumped on my mental radar, going, what's going on? There's more going on with this Jack Layton thing than meets the eye. And I never fully dug into it enough to really dig down into all the nuances of what Father had going on with that. But it's not insignificant when you have a state funeral for the leader of the opposition and they sing Rise Up, and there was a number of other little things that jumped out at me at that time. But it was at that point when recognizing that I didn't have all the pieces on it, and it seemed to me that there needed to be a way to throw out to others, especially across Canada, and say, okay, so what is everyone else getting on this? Because I know I don't have the complete picture.
Yeah, we need somehow to be more sensitive to Canadian issues and or events or country problems that needs to be addressed. But I guess we're not. I don't know. We need to be more sensitive to these things because Stevens and his group are definitely in
Right.
tune of their spiritual welfare in their country, whereas we're definitely not in tune. And yet we're still, I'm talking for myself, not mature enough to know what needs to be addressed or.
And it doesn't preclude, of course, it doesn't preclude the notion that someone else is doing this. I would never be as arrogant to think that we could be the only ones to be tuned into the idea of having the spiritual interests of Canada in mind. The fact that we're simply not connected with who that could possibly be. So I threw on one of the weblog entries, I guess a week or so ago, that again kind of jumped out at me was that the Council of the Federation, I think its name was, which all the premiers belonged to, had invited Harper to join them in Nova Scotia. Actually, it was after we had chatted that it kind of jumped out at me, the Nova Scotia connection, and he was refusing to do so. He didn't want to. Stephen Harper, of course, which years ago when Stephen Harper kind of jumped on the scene, kind of thought, that's kind of interesting. Stephen Harper, kind of Stephen as the one that got stoned, Harper kind of one that has a heart of David. Of course, he came right after Paul the Martian, because Martin is Mars, is war, that kind of thing. And of course, that all came after John Christian. I mean, what's going on with that? Like, really, what's going on with that sequence of the prime ministers? Kim Campbell was before John Chrétien, right? Kim Campbell. Yeah, Kim Campbell was between like for 6 months.
Yeah, short stint.
The only woman prime minister we've
Yeah.
had.
And then John Turner,
He was before
before Mulrooney, with that famous line where they had the debate.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And Turner said, "I didn't have a choice." He said, "Yes, you did." That was his
Wow.
one-liner.
Okay. So we found the political junkie in the room, did we?
I think so.
It's okay.
Junkies, I don't even know what order prime ministers come in.
Anyway, there's, you know, I mean, there's, I think there's something there on that as well. And, but again, but what then struck me was I saw the potential of being in touch with, you know, it's almost like if the premiers of the province were asking the prime minister to get together with them to discuss kind of whatever's going on. It seemed to me that there's almost a spiritual parallel where there are representatives from the provinces or regions that are coming together to kind of discuss the spiritual needs, or kind of, and I think that spiritual needs and kind of real needs kind of go hand in hand. I mean, there is a connection between that, and so that maybe sounds very formal, more formal than it needs to be, but. Anyway, I don't know. Just some thoughts I throw on the table. I'm a political, I must admit, I'm a bit of a political junkie myself. So that might be part of the reason that my mind kind of goes to that.
I know nothing about Canada really, but American. I do, and it's interesting that those of us who are here from the States are from border states.
Oh, that's true. I border to Ontario and she borders.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because I'm reading Stephen Jones' weblog, I know more about the political issues in the United States than Canada.
No, you're right, and I mean that's the classic Canadian thing is we tend to know, you know, American culture a bit more than our own, simply because you guys are like, you have the cultural hegemony. Is that the right word? You know, it's kind of like, anyway.
Yeah, but somebody like Stephen puts a little bit more meat on those informational bones, because we can watch CNN, and when we get a weird, convoluted, biased, narrow-minded approach to that, I can't turn it on without hearing the names Romney and President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you go on to Stephen's blogs, he takes a lot of that information and goes down deeper in it, say bringing up Babylon, prophecy, these type of things, and you get a lot more information, I think, understanding out of that type of reporting than you would just get, say, on the normal media news.
I think part of what's come out of this, the connection to this is just, as Canadians, we need to take more responsibility for our stuff, for what's going on, and that probably means that some of us need to step up more.
Well, Stephen did say that he's kind of a clearinghouse for all sorts of information that comes to him. So he gets bits and pieces of information that the ordinary person wouldn't get, and we don't have any such person up here that's a clearinghouse like that, where a whole bunch of people are sending things to him and saying, you know, what's this and what's that, because I don't hear every single piece of what's going on in Canada, so how do I know? You know,
It's a blessing that he gets so many different things coming in. And my husband's very, since I've met him, he's very knowledgeable about names of senators and representatives and people around the world, and he's just, you know, like getting out of the IRS and understands about the Federal Reserve, the corruption of Babylon in 1913, and we knew all this before even meeting, you know, our other help, James and Ron and Stephen. But I respect my husband because that isn't my calling. I'm an intercessor. You know, I came on a whole different basis. So now that we're married, I really respect him. But so for me to get on to Stephen's, my husband's analyzed and knows a lot of this. But me, I can get on, read what Stephen sends us to, and he can do a synopsis, just like you said. I go, oh, thank you, boiling it down to something that I can absorb, because that's not my focus like my husband's.
I just know that on the practical front, it almost requires someone that is either retired or independently wealthy, or is somehow able to make this their full-time gig.
Like he does.
I'm going back to your comment about the clearinghouse, because that I think that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, you know, so in wherever I may have felt to do some of that, I just recognize that in myself, I just can't pull that off and have a life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not part of your focused calling.
Well, pardon?
Has to be a calling, I think.
Or your top one.
Leadership calling.
Yeah, I hope the goal here isn't to appoint somebody to this small group, although that's the major point you're talking about right there.
Maybe Stephen would know of someone in Canada who has sent him material and he's conversed with that would be perhaps partially assuming that goal that we could hook up with. I don't know. You know, I imagine he gets people sending him stuff, I guess, all the time. I mean, he quotes British newspapers and,
Yeah.
you know, European things.
I often wonder, where in the world does he get all that information?
As you say, if you take the time, you can find it. But it's
The person that comes to mind is Ray Knight. Sorry. Bob Henley mentioned Ray and Sheila Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you listening, Ray? Anyway, sorry. I hate to put now that I've named someone.
I'm going to share something. If you remember back at Manassas, you guys were there.
Yeah.
James Bergerman's,
Yeah,
yes,
that's it.
James Bergerman's talk when he said about the getting more involved in our
Yes.
and it really impressed me because one of his talks was specifically about being more responsible and being aware more of our government part now, and you guys do remember that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you brought this question up because it's just another phase of what he was suggesting to us this Passover.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
But
right.
we're in the next little phase of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, my goal is not to necessarily appoint someone, Dave.
I said we, even if I was looking at you.
That was cute.
But you can
You
add
said they were
some
retired. That was
Yeah.
the first thing. I was trying to hide something.
type of forum or blog.
No, you're right. Even if it isn't,
Oh, there you go.
It's not one person, it's just a gathering.
Yeah.
even if it's not necessarily a person, if it could be a place or a forum or something like that, and that probably wouldn't be rocket science to get set up.
So that somebody could bring out something and then everybody could, whoever is interested, look into it also and feel, where the Lord is, sometimes you don't think much of it, but once you get into researching it, you discover quite a bit, and then it becomes quite a dialogue, a discussion, something can come out of it. Yeah.
And that's maybe something that could be picked up with Bob in terms of suggesting that, if there were a way to, even within the Unity 153, if you've got the server and the infrastructure, if it's just simply a matter of creating some kind of web form,
It should be done in his place.
maybe there's something there that
Yeah.
I know that part of the reason he mentions in whether maybe it was probably in one of his blog entries on surveys.org. You know, why did he set up the server? And he talked about, we could have used Facebook, we could have used this, we could have used that, but they have their own interests. You know, Facebook's looking to generate ad revenue and so forth. That's their modus operandi. You know, is to create money from, and you know, we don't have that. That's not our mission. So we created our own thing, and it's secure and so forth. So maybe that's something to take up with him.
I think so, because our need is the needs of other country, and so you're just setting up the infrastructure that can be applied
Right.
to all countries.
And that infrastructure could be country specific.
Yeah.
Like there, you know, you could have a Canadian section, American section, you know, blah blah blah.
I think you're
And
right.
and you know, you could have, you know, people that are willing to moderate that are willing to come in, and because ultimately, in some ways, information is only useful if it's categorizable and searchable, right? To just have a stream of information, it almost needs to be categorized in, you know, in some kind of topical way, so that somebody can kind of go through or.
Yeah.
Categorized or
Categorized, like topically
and second point, information categorized
and searchable. I mean, searchable is pretty easy. You know, typically a search bar will take care of that.
But yeah, if you have a good category, it's well categorized and
I guess
well searchable.
I guess the other criteria would be that it's date linear, right? Because so often this stuff tends to be date based. You know, so to be able to go back, especially to be able to have the dates there, to be able to go back and. So I looked up even just the when I mentioned the body parts that connected yesterday and the thing in Montreal when they first started. I think it was 82 days. Although, anyway, what am I trying to say? Just looking at the date, sometimes the numbers mean something.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, categorize a discussion with dates. Is that what you're suggesting? Or
Well, it could be that. I'm just saying that for everybody to be able to make sense of the information, it would just have to be organized, I think, in some way.
okay,
So, I don't know. I can try to pick up that conversation with them and see where that leads.
yeah.
But I do know that. Sorry, I do know that after I threw out that little posting about Jack Layton, and I did get a number of responses back from different people that kind of had input into that. And unfortunately, I just didn't have time to take it out of those emails and put it into something that was useful for anyone else.
Yeah. If you have a discussion-based thing, then it's not really resting on an individual, you know. It's
Right.
more than it's there and anybody can reference it
Right.
and then bring it to another level.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's nice.
I do know something else that probably should be mentioned. I never threw it out there at the time, but Wisefire, wisefire.tv. Scott Reichart started a forum predominantly geared around the restoration of all things called Wisefire. Anyway, just to throw that out there in case. Wisefire.tv, I'm pretty sure it is. I'm just looking it up here.
I'm sorry,
The
Wisefire
Wisefire community.
Wisefire.
.tv. And it's kind of a discussion.
Is that a website?
Yeah. It's kind of a discussion forum and so forth, but it's predominantly centered around restoration as a topic.
I send things to Stephen sometimes, and sometimes it's just news things that I've found that jump out at me. Sometimes it's something that I'm perceiving, and when I send it to him, I'm looking for confirmation a lot of times.
Right.
To see if he's perceiving it, and then sometimes he'll write in the blog, and it has to do with, it is a confirmation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
I do the very same thing. It just might be some news information, which I'm sure he's probably aware of anyways. But I send it anyways, just in case it correlates to something he had just been talking about,
Right.
or putting something together meaningfully.
Yeah, and you know, so that's a good point, because okay, so just in this room, two people, you know, I've sent the odd thing here and there too, And so I know that, you know, last week I said, you know, did you get my email on whatever? It was about this and having him, you know, speak. And I think that was probably about 1,500 emails ago. You know, it's that kind of, I just know he's overloaded.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Okay.
does
And-
share that sometimes he gets too much of people's dreams or thoughts or stuff, and because we have these meetings once a month with him, and he does his best, but he really is overwhelmed sometimes.
Oh yeah,
He's
we
not
may
a
think
dream-
we've got something important.
He's
you
not
have to hear
a
this.
he's not a dream interpreter, or you know, I've
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
sensed what he's trying to help share is it's good that this stuff comes in, but he's not going to
Yeah.
interpret your dream from last night per se.
Yeah.
Really?
So I thought, come on, Steve.
And if he doesn't, then you get our nose put out of
Well, I'm not saying he
That's
doesn't
why I
go
try
by
not to
dreams.
send
Some
it.
people's dreams.
It was a joke.
But he does. But I mean, he gets a lot.
Oh, and I guess that's what I'm saying, even with respect to the news. Like, it would almost be more helpful if instead of giving it to him, it was in a public forum, and, you know,
Yeah.
that it could be in a way that bypasses that person, him, as a filter for it, right? Because that's what that person becomes. If you have to read all those emails, you become the filter
Yeah.
for all that information.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
both of us brought that point up. And where did it go? It went to Stephen Jones, someone that teaches that we look up to or look to
Right.
for that
I think
information.
if we're led by the Spirit on when to email them or when not to, it's great. You're supposed to do it. You're led to do it.
Right. So at the very least, so I can take the suggestion back to Bob in terms of whether or not that's something that he can add into the Unity 153, and if not, I guess in the meantime, I guess I can try to find some other way to create a form for the information to go into, because otherwise it's because I think that is part and parcel of what comes out of this is the ability to connect people and then make that connection meaningful on a long-term basis. And I think that requires some electronic
Meaningful
infrastructure.
and productive.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately then for people to be able to continue to make those connections. You know, you mentioned, you know, so who else is out in Nova Scotia, right?
Who's on the left?
Who else is in Nova Scotia or Maritime? That
right.
wasn't-
Sure. You know, and there has to be. There have to be. I can't believe there aren't more. And so hopefully it would become the way to find those people.
Unless somebody moves to Nova Scotia.
But I'm going to visit you.
Yeah.
That's interesting because the thought that just occurred. I think that as people come through, you know, I mentioned yesterday about so a lot of us are doing the church thing, and maybe through whatever experience we've gotten the left foot, and that has us feeling a bit jaded about the whole social aspect related to spirituality, right? Once bitten, twice shy. Not going back there again. You know, got kicked out of that. So you kind of
Escorted out the door.
yeah. So you kind of hunker down and kind of do your own thing. And I think that sometimes people that are reading this, especially, you know, might be in a bit of that mindset, right? And so there may be some resistance to people kind of going, yeah, okay, I'm out here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
I'm kind of thinking of a biblical story where a man has a wedding planned. His fatted calf has been slaughtered. He sends his servants out to the highways and the byways and go invite everyone to the wedding. And the response he gets is, I'm too busy. I have things to do. And they don't go to the wedding that they're invited to. I don't really know where to go with that, and it's
So
not an accusatory statement at all. because
So the
it
servants
applies to
went out
me.
to get
It
the
applies
people.
to me, yeah.
The servants were
The
instructed
servants
to go
were
out
sent
and
out and said, bring those off the street.
bring everybody. Just
Sure, and
Uh,
that's
if
us.
these people don't want it,
Yeah.
go get them.
We'll be a bit more direct. Where are you trying to go?
Well, I'm not going back to the word appointed, but you brought up when Bergerman was talking about the political thing that we should be in tune with that. I hope that ignited a spark in a person in that
Who's
role.
urging us to be more responsible?
Yes, yeah. See, and I'm guilty of not, if I think the spark is in there, suppressing it. I'm guilty of that. But this is not about me. This is about the body, and in that body, you know, that spark. And in a dark room, you'll see the spark. So in that room in Manassas, I was kind of looking around for the spark. When he said that, did somebody sit taller? Did somebody consult with their spouse and say, hey, we could do that, type of thing? You know, it's in there, it's in the body. And the call's been put out. But like, that's where my story ends, unfortunately.
There's also a question of timing, in the sense that the Lord is awakening the people, and sometimes to preach the gospel has to be, done when the people are awake to a certain level,
Mhm.
So,
That's right.
yeah, and
Oh, it's timing, yeah.
yeah, and Dr. Jones speaks about, get ready to go and evangelize, yeah. So to me, I got that, before it wasn't really the time to evangelize in the, big scheme, but it was more of a time for us to mature, and then the Lord laid out this blindness in for centuries over the people, and which was His plan and purpose, and soon we got to get ready.
And it's only by His grace that we woke up.
Yeah.
It was only by God's grace that we woke up as the first fruits and choose to be an overcomer. Because that's what my friend and I did in the 70s as new Christians. In Revelation it says, he who sees, look, he who hears, hears. He said, I'm looking for overcomers. But can I brag about that? I don't think so.
No.
We're only waking up because of His grace. Whether you were in your country,
That's
you were in
correct.
Canada,
Yeah.
you were. It's only by His grace. So, how can we judge these who He hasn't given the grace to open their eyes? I don't think so. They're still They're still in the Pentecostal church, but can we have arrogance? I know. Oh no, it's only by His grace that we are.
I think you're kind of affirming my point, but that blindness, He's lifting the veil for us.
Right.
We see, and we see now. We can't say, oh, when the veil is lifted, or when I have understanding. Because of who we are, and what we're involved with, we do see now. The
But
veil
His
has
grace.
been lifted for us. We are without excuse.
Yeah. Well, what happened to Paul? Paul was killing them.
Yeah.
Apostle Paul was killing them,
It
and
took
all
him
of a
about
sudden,
3 seconds. to get
bam,
his
and he
mind
falls
changed.
down and gets
Yeah.
blind. And
And that was something the Father did.
the Father, it was grace of God that
He
will
does
have.
it. He does it to us. He's doing it to us now.
Right. But that's why those people you're talking about don't get it or see, because He didn't remove the veil yet.
Right. I think where you're going with this is just that call that James put out to, at whatever level of government, town council, whatever it is that there is the opportunity for, and B a sense of calling to do. to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to know how many people took them up on that
Well,
that challenge.
it's interesting because right after I got back, I got a political call asking me to meet for Ron Paul, who does understand about a heck of a lot of stuff. I don't know if you can follow it, but Ron Paul
Yeah.
understands about the Federal Reserve System. He understands about this. He understands about, and so we went to the meeting and we went to vote and we got on the caucus to Minnesota's caucus. You have representatives. Other states don't. There's so many states that do it that way. And we got as an alternative representative. We didn't make it. But I would never have wanted to care about doing anything political. But here, James, he went to the, what do you call those things they were doing in the parks?
Oh, Occupy?
Occupy. Remember, James started out his talk about Occupy, and then he says, now be responsible. So I get back home to my Minnesota, and I get a call, and it hasn't gone anywhere because we didn't get enough votes. We only got to be alternative ones. But I just think of that, it started. I mean, it was the taste, but it didn't go very far. But it was just very interesting for me. I was aware more of how even Minnesota works. I was so ignorant. So some of the certain percentage of the states work by the people that get voted in on each county. They control it, no matter how many vote of each person Minnesota does. And other states are on a whole different voting thing, and I was ignorant. So I had a very baby taste of getting involved.
Okay. So a few points there in terms of getting some kind of infrastructure pulled together just to be able to share information. Kind of having our eyes open more to what's going on. And even, it's just, as we were talking about the other night, more often than not, it's just kind of, I guess I find for myself, it's almost being in the headspace. I didn't make the connection to these body parts they were connecting. I'd heard the news probably earlier, but it didn't connect that there was anything meaningful until, the other day, when your headspace is there, for me anyway.
No, it's very interesting.
It's very symbolic. It's very neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least I was impressed with it.
And something came of it. The body parts are here in this room. Part of the bodies in this room have come together.
Except I think it's the extremities. They found the head.
And the foot, you said?
They found a head, a foot, and 2 hands.
It's better to build a body that way. You don't start with the torso and go out. Start with those other parts and bring them back into the torso. We'll have a body. We already have the head to put on top of it.
Well, what do we use the most?
It's the
Our hands and our feet.
Oh, sure. No, I
There's
hear you.
only 1 feet though. But what they found later, the hands, and what struck me, and it correlated with the meeting timing, that maybe we are the hands, type of thing. Meant hopefully for work. Yeah.
We use our feet to walk everywhere. We use our hands to do everything. So,
You've got only 1 feet to walk on.
are you trying to say that I only have 1 leg to stand on?
Peter and Paul cured that fellow that couldn't walk on either one of his feet. And then by the word, he was leaping on both feet instantly.
I can tell you that if you only have 1 foot, you need a crutch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're limping along. You're not getting anywhere very quickly. If you've only got 1 foot. I'm just looking to see if there's an update. It was a right foot. Right foot was found by hikers.
Well, that's mercy more at least.
The feet are the preparation of the gospel of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what is it about the foot company? I know the term. I'm forgetting in the moment what the foot company is about.
I didn't know.
Okay. Anyway, those are some pieces of the puzzle out there. Anything else? We are allowed to diverge from this topic if you feel so led.
I guess I just, I'm kind of new to this way of looking at things in this sort of detail and analysis, if you will. But I guess when I look at the world, I see so many things, and I touched on it last night, that are kind of converging. Maybe it's sort of like Dr. Jones, kind of converging to the end point. And I just feel like God wants to use people in some way, and the only way we can find that out is through prayer. Because His ways are above our ways, and we can't sit down and analyze and say, okay, this is what's going to happen next. This is what He's going to do. It's it's not possible. But for a group like this, I would just say that we agree to pray for each other and to pray for His Spirit to inform us and to pray for discernment.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole world out there that is dying and that doesn't know what's going on or where we're headed. And it's going to come crashing down at some point. After 9/11, there was a spike in church attendance, and then it went back down again. And that's kind of a foretaste, I guess, that when it gets really rough, people turn to something beyond their own resources. And I think that's God. And I think that'll happen again in a bigger way.
Yeah.
And they're going to need some sort of boots on the ground, if you will. Maybe that's the feat, to help with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no doubt that a lot of us have been in prep time
Yes.
to because a lot of people have been, as you say, after 9/11, gone back to that, and yet there's certainly some delusionment on the church side of things as well. And I know even for myself to be prepared enough for the questions when they come, and because sometimes the established church doesn't necessarily have the answers,
Right.
either.
And I guess
I'm not trying to bash that. I'm just trying to.
I understand. The fact that it kind of settled back down to where it was, and we're in declining organized religion mode in North America, I think proves your point that whatever they were looking for, they didn't find, in a lasting sort of way. That way.
Book I read long ago from George Barna called Revolution, and he kind of deals with that topic of the revolution that's going on. He's looking at the U.S. It seems to extrapolate pretty well, but just kind of organized church attendance. Anyway, part of his point was that people are looking for God, for spirituality in a lot of alternative areas, and a lot of people that would seem to have checked out of organized religion haven't necessarily checked out of God.
No.
But I just remember taking out of that the sense of every problem is an opportunity,
Well, I'm going to share something. I really know that I'm not per se Canadian, although you said we border Canada. I do. But I told you briefly, I'm the 11th generation, which I didn't find out till my late 40s, of Governor William Bradford, who came on the Mayflower in 1600, and they came on to Massachusetts there, wrote of Plymouth Plantation, which she has the book. What I'm trying to share is, yes, we're in this century, but something of every one of us, our heritage, because your mom told me about their Irish heritage, which I'm Irish too, and I'm proud. I'm French. My Canadian family came from Quebec down to America, so I've got blood knowing I'm part of this. Knowing to come here, I don't know if you could tell, Lisa, there's something in my DNA. They were religious. They had a vision for when we say America, we mean both. We're North America. I was almost in tears. It's like Paul says, the Holy Spirit. Didn't I sound funny to you? I was almost like I was pathetic. I was almost crying, or I knew to get here, but I didn't understand on the human money. And he says the plane ticket's $1,200. I'm, and they went to Holland for 11 years to get away from Queen Mary, who was Catholic. They had to hide in their homes. They had a vision for America, that we were the New Jerusalem, we were the light on the hill. And I'm thinking, and then my human part's going, well, you're really a stupid woman, And yet I knew something was going on, some DNA memory. There's generation curses and there's generation blessings. I get a hold of Beth. Beth, your forefathers, tell them.
John Alden and Priscilla Mullins. So her relatives knew my relatives, and the Mullins family were Huguenots, and so they had come from France. And then on another part, there were a Carr family and the Legiers that settled near Belleville, and then also in Quimby Bay, I guess it is. So it's
Quinty Bay.
Quinty Bay.
See,
Yes.
It's coming full circle, and you connect me to Beth. And so we're regathering. Here's the hand, here's the foot. Then I'm living in Kansas. They were close. My governor, William Bradford, and John Alden and Priscilla, and that they had a vision. They were learning from God. I'm living in the middle of Kansas, from Minnesota. I move in with a lady in Topeka, Kansas. Your John Alden and Priscilla and my William Bradford would have known this person. Their mentor was William Brewster. He was a lot older than William Bradford. William Bradford was a young man in England. William Brewster was a lot older. They came over on the Mayflower. I'm living in Topeka, Kansas. I'm led to move in with this lady till my husband and all our pets and goats and sheep and all the animals could come. She's a direct descendant of William Brewster. 400 years later, I'm living in her home.
And he was the pastor.
He was a pastor. He was our mentor. He was phenomenal. I mean, we're reawakening up. We're regathering.
Which I
A
think has to
vision.
do with the tribes, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And Holland and Zebulon and the blessing.
Yeah, you're talking Israel here.
Well, and
Exactly.
I could have sat in my living with or where our computer is with my husband Saturday and watched Stephen, and it didn't make sense to me. But I knew to be here, and I called you guys like 3-4 times, and somehow, some reason, I'm part of you guys, even though I'm not Canadian per se, but I am.
Well, welcome to Canada.
Sister.
I'm exciting and the privilege and the honor to be here with you guys. I love you.
Well, and I think it's pretty clear that there's multiple levels. There's multiple things going on, because there is kind of a Canadian thing kind of going on. That's kind of an undercurrent, yes. But there's this whole North American thing, and kind of with the online, that's kind of a separate element. And then there's just this, as you said, we have over the years, there has been so much back and forth. I mean, from whether it be from the going back to the original, the people that came over, or the in our area, what's the term I'm looking for? Yes, the loyalists.
What?
The loyalists that all came up from New England and so forth and populated northern Ontario and Quebec and that whole area. So there's so much back and forth. I mean, who's who in the zoo? I mean, and yet there is kind of this almost a legal. There is a legal thing that relates to citizenship as fathers kind of set up the political structure as well. So as much as there are sometimes border clarities in terms of who we represent and how that works out governmentally, then there's this whole mishmash that doesn't matter at all.
Mm-hmm. But as an intercessor, I feel I'm here to learn and feel the Canadian part of my brother and sisterhood.
Well, you came to Bradford, the right place.
That's another witness. Here's the word Bradford, Governor William Bradford, and in your name, G. Williamsburg is
Right.
William. You can't get more specific than that.
Yeah. Often people will ask where we are, or whatever, and I know I posted it as we're close to Newmarket and so forth, but the truth is we're in the middle of nowhere in a lot of ways here.
But my French side did live in Quebec.
Right. I guess I'm just trying to get to that. I said we're close to Newmarket, but we're actually, we pay our taxes to the town of Bradford. We're in the town of Bradford per se.
Well, it was close enough for those who were just.
Right.
And then when they emailed you, you got specific.
Right.
I guess my point even of that was that I'm to learn more about your Canadian operations. To be in tune as you pray and connect.
Now, of course, in the middle of this whole conversation, we have our friends here that have very much a mixed background. Canadian citizenship, yes. Gerard. But born in the United Arab Emirates. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
No, Pakistan.
You raised for this
Okay.
yesterday.
I missed the conversation.
India
I'm India.
and Pakistan.
Right. Fill us in a bit more, please.
Oh, he filled me in.
On my background? Or?
No, I don't need your whole story. I just so India, Pakistan is where you were born, both born.
Met in Dubai.
Pardon?
Met in Dubai.
Okay.
I was working in Dubai, and I think he came to Dubai when he was 12 years old.
11 years, yeah.
11, 12, then he was studying there, then working, and then we met in a church. We got married, then because in Dubai you cannot settle down, right? You can just work, then you have to go back to your countries when you retire. So we were planning where can we go. It's difficult to go back to Pakistan because I'm Indian, and he cannot come to India because he's Pakistani.
That's a different concept.
That's why we plan to come to Canada.
Oh, so by marrying one another, you kind of created your own no man's land. Is that?
No, we never had an idea that we could immigrate at that stage.
At that stage, yeah. Later on.
We got married in 91. I think the idea of immigration only started somewhere in 96. And then I thought I'd probably immigrate somewhere. So
Right.
There was no concept like that.
Right.
Of course, at the back of my mind, I was not sure where. Probably I was tending towards India. When you migrate to, say, a Pakistani goes to India, you have a lot of restrictions. You technically are not like a full Indian. You don't have the full rights of an Indian. So you go there. You are under quite a number of monitoring. You have to
The
report
police
to
will
a
come out.
particular.
Even when you take a visa and go to India, as soon as you land in India, you first have to go to the police station to report that I have arrived.
Wow.
Like for him.
They call it home commission or some location which is linked to also the police, and then you have to report there and
Right.
all kinds of formalities and
But you came to Canada
right.
For a bit, and then if I remember correctly, you went to Saudi Arabia.
No, I went to Dubai and
Oh,
then I
okay.
went to Saudi. Yeah, that was quite an experience.
Right. And now you're back in Canada.
Yeah.
Was England an option?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
your citizenship is Canadian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, compared to some of us, it's a more eclectic mix.
But yes, ultimately we are citizens of God, right?
That's right.
We're all one people, all of us.
And if they look back at their genealogy, if it can be traced, then they would find somewhere in the tribes of the 12 or
We've been
13.
very,
I don't know.
I mean, close to where, I think, this the Middle East, right? All in the Old Testament, you see all these things happen in the Middle East.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm not sure whether it can be traced because I don't know the Indian culture, and maybe it's got something with Persia because India was a place like actually my parents are actually from India. They're from a place called Goa, but Goa used to be a Portuguese colony. But prior to that, India was a place of many kingdoms. So India had these people of Persia and various kings coming there, and they had their kingdoms, and it was a very rich place, and rich in resources, rich in mineral, name it, you know. And they had different cultures, different languages. So if you go to India now, you see like 30, 40 different languages, different cultures, different food habits. It's kind of, in one place you find so much variety. And you go to Pakistan, you won't find so much variety. Probably about 3, 4, 5 different cultures. Languages, probably few of them, probably about less than 10. But in India, you've got 30 odd languages. So it's quite a big variety. So I'm not sure where they probably, you can't really trace it. It might be going to Persia and various other places.
Uh-huh. Huh. And in the whole mix of all this, you're in banking, right?
Yeah, I've been in banking like throughout my career.
Right.
Yeah, I'm more on the financial, so I can understand the financial aspects of the Federal Reserve, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Even I listened to Lindsay Williams, but I don't think he really knows the depths of how it works. He's talking about derivatives, which seems to be one of the aspects. But what puzzles me is this Federal Reserve ability to kind of create money and just put it into the system. And it's put into the system also in Canada, in Europe, across the world. And what are they going to do with all the money? They're going to make it, what are they going to convert it to? Gold? I'm not sure exactly where we're going with all this. But it seems all countries are involved, including Canada.
It's going to fall because they're creating it out of nothing. They're not on a gold standard anymore. It's all paper. Everybody's 401ks and everything is collapsing. It's not on a gold standard anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like stock is not an option, although people still invest in stocks. Looks like commodities is the direction of what, sounds more sound, because everything in the commodity side, everything is going up.
Yeah. Bob Henley is in banking all these years too. The speaker, and that's his field, and that's why he understands. That's why he was predicting and saying some stuff.
Right.
It's,
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring you into the mix because within all the conversation, it's yeah. I think it's interesting that I'm so glad you guys have come because it's.
You said you were from India, and then your folks.
No,
moved.
my parents were born in India. I
And
mean,
then
they were
moved to
proper
Pakistan.
Indians, but they migrated. They actually had Portuguese passport because of the Portuguese colony, and then they went to Pakistan, and then they surrendered their Portuguese passports and took up.
No, that is during the independence. Before it was one country. India and Pakistan, it was one country.
When
No,
did
but-
That's in 1945, I think it began to.
No, but the Goa was a Portuguese colony, and India, the other part of India, was not Portuguese. I think gave away their hold in somewhere in in the 50s or 60s or something like that. So they were not part of the independence. So Goa joined into India after the independence. So Goa is a small place, which is
quite a resort kind of a place.
Yeah, I was reading about it in a newspaper a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just when you mentioned it, I wouldn't have known about it had I not read this thing about they're trying to keep people from going to
half
Goa.
of his family, after the independence, his mother and father stayed back and became Pakistanis. They had to take the Pakistani passport. And his mother's brother went back to Goa. So the family is half in India, half in Pakistan.
Yeah, bitter rival countries at this point, right? Yes,
Yes.
I mean that's the
That's
reason
the
for the
problem, yeah.
yeah.
Your last name's Portuguese, right?
D'Souza,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if we'll have Portuguese connection. Maybe down the route there might be one or two. Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Were you people raised Hindu and Muslim or
No, I was a Catholic.
Catholic? Okay.
Me too.
Yeah.
What about Gerard?
He too.
Yeah,
he too.
Catholic.
That's unusual, isn't it, for that part of the world?
No.
No, it's a Goa. See,
Yeah,
as I
like
said,
Portugal
Goa was a Portuguese
interfering.
colony.
Goa is full of
When the
Catholics.
Portuguese came there was a lot of Hinduism, and then they took that, and a lot of conversion took place, and then now it's majority is Catholics.
How do you spell that place?
GOA.
Goa. Yeah.
Okay, no, I just thanks for throwing your hat in the ring. Anyone else got anything they want to throw out on the table?
But it's important to have, because Canada is a mixed cultural country, and there is needs, to have representatives, in all cultures.
No, I agree.
And I enjoyed visiting with you yesterday, and you shared your walk and the different phases and the leadings, and I appreciated it. That was very interesting.
Yeah, it's another conversation.
It was?
It was another conversation.
It was a conversation. It was very good.
So maybe going back to your point about kind of where does this leave us coming out of this? I think I'm hoping it kind of leaves us with some more connection points. And certainly, I mean, we all kind of came into this with some kind of connection points beyond this already. Linda and Carolyn meeting up with some previous connection points, right? And
It's all good.
yeah, so I think it just kind of grows stuff bigger, and I think that's kind of what it's about. So anyway, I know I have a little bit of a to-do list. I'm waiting for you guys to tell me what your to-do list is going to be. So.
To do, why don't you share yours?
Well, my to-do list is to try to figure out some way to create either as I say, work with Bob or create something else to
I think
some infrastructure on that front.
Yeah.
It's nice to get the overall picture of what's really happening, and everyone has a little bit of an input, because, we all hear from God, and somebody has a little bit of an idea, and somebody else has an idea, and then sometimes we can get a better picture of the whole idea when everybody has a part, if we can get a forum going somewhere we can post things to that effect. It gives us a better idea of which way to go and how to handle that. I think it's a good idea to do that.
Yep.
There's a lot of written blogs, like Stephen Jones has his blogs there. I don't see so much of messages where some people like to read, some people like to listen. So if somebody does something and you put it and record it there on the blog, and then people can refer to it, might be
Are you asking Steve to record his blog and put it in audio form? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, that big Moses one would be good, guys. How many parts to that Moses one?
Yeah.
I would love to pop it into my cars.
But now I have to.
Like even Steve Williams does his regular, like he has continuation on his
Right.
story on, you know.
Yes, I was partly being a little facetious there.
I know you were.
You know, it's kind of funny because I think Steve is starting to encroach on James Bergerman's. You know, it's James that typically gets into part 20 of something.
20. We're up to 20, 30 on his.
I know. Yeah, it was interesting. So Stephen referenced yesterday about how did he put it? Technology is his enemy.
He did.
And was that after? Was that before we were done recording?
At the end.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm hoping we can get Stephen back on the camera in other ways. Whether or not it becomes some kind of regular podcast or something that. There's no doubt that whenever you can connect with someone in a audio video kind of format, it becomes more rich than just written form. And certainly the interactiveness and being able to kind of throw back questions, that kind of thing, I think was a cool experience. And to be able to take that and magnify that, meaning more people involved and I think that is something else that can come out of this weekend that has started. That's a bit separate than kind of what we've been doing here, but it's related.
I will pray about doing his audio on just the Moses one, just reading it.
Oh, like reading it as like an audio book.
Yes. I'm pretty silent in the car, but I would listen to it.
I know that. Was there somebody that suggested at one point, you know, that of course taking the books and doing like an audio book version of the books.
That's
of course,
true too.
There are people that have been translating the books to different languages and so forth, but actually being able to do like an audio version of.
I will pray about. Well, the Moses one is still just online.
Sure.
It's not a.
Oh no, I agree. I was just extrapolating it out.
So we don't always have time to be sitting down at the computer, because especially if
You
it's the
take an
right.
MP form and put it into your iPod or whatever.
That's right.
And
Yeah, there's nothing like Secrets of Time in an audio book.
But somebody has to read it.
But you can't put the charts in audio form.
You're right.
What about ebook? There's a lot of people like just to sit with their readers too. It's another thing.
Oh, no doubt. And so one of two things have to happen there. Either individuals need to step up and do something, or there need to be financial resources or a revaluation of some sort or something like that. It requires resources, either personnel or finances, to pull that stuff off. As I said, I know, there are just people out there that are doing the translation, and that's kind of their piece of the puzzle that they're doing. Yeah.
I will read it, but I am technologically challenged, so I would have to be shown how to put it on the iPod or the what do you call it, MP3.
Right. If you've got a computer and
I could put in a CD and
a
I
half
could
decent
read.
microphone, you can probably pull it off. The tools are pretty much there now to do that. I can help guide you as to the tools you would need to do that.
Well, I was asked to read a book before too, but they didn't know how to pause it. I read an hour straight. An hour.
They didn't know how to pause the recording.
Yeah, the guy who was doing the recording, and I sat in this chair, and I read. When I get into the reading mode, it'll be okay. And I read an hour straight with sneaking a snip of water in between, but by the grace of God, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll pray if that's a thing that God's opening the door to do. Who brought that up to hear? You did, Dave? Somebody said to hear. Oh, you did, dear.
Yeah.
Yes, I will pray about if that door is opening, because I have the time and I'm willing to read it.
There.
I guess that's one of my to-do lists.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to put everyone
father in his sovereignty put him in. I think it's the biggest joke on Americans, according to their laws,
Yeah,
that God could just,
yeah,
you think you're going to do this? This man is in office,
exactly.
and he's not even an American citizen the correct way. So I'm going to stand back. Thank you for the question. I'm going to stand back and see the sovereignty of God. Put in who he wants.
Hallelujah. Yeah, right on the head with that one.
Yeah.
So
Come out and say a non-American.
that's my
president,
answer.
president. That's
What
right.
you
Yeah,
do with
well,
it, I don't know. Does anybody hear what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we definitely hear that.
I just think I just said to Ellen, it's
I found it very
phenomenal if
strange
God
myself.
did that. And if it's a dark side, God's in control anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. It actually reminds me of sorry, it's a joke.
Go for it.
No, it's an old. What was his name? I'm even forgetting the name. Brewster's Millions, the movie Brewster's Millions.
Yeah.
Vote for none of the above. This Brewster runs for elected office, and his whole campaign was vote for none of the above, and he won. What was the actor's name?
I don't remember. I was thinking of Roseanne Barr. Maybe she'll win.
They had an election in the States, it was quite a while ago now, I believe, that one of the candidates died during the campaign and he won the election.
Okay.
Well, that's got to have been a long time ago. I don't even
He got
remember.
more votes than anybody else. I don't know what that says. Whether people don't pay attention or whether people thought this would be a good vote, I'm not sure, but I remember that happening.
Not since I'm older.
Richard Pryor. Sorry.
Oh, Richard Pryor.
It's Richard Pryor.
Isn't he the one that died?
Yes, he did.
The drug overdose?
Yeah. Anyway, I apologize for the diversion. Well,
I
I mean,
don't know if I'm going to vote either.
Well, that's a sad
I have
thing
to know
hear,
what God's
that-
will is. Am I really supposed to bother to go and vote?
That people don't vote, you know. I mean, I'm not criticizing you for not voting, it's just a very sad thing that you don't feel that there's, you know, someone you want to support, you know what I mean? That you want in there to do some good.
Yeah, but I don't think the voting does that much good because I think that whoever it is
You
is
have to
already picked.
understand the American system. The voting doesn't.
Whoever it is already picked
Well, it's
because
the
the
It's the
college.
electoral
Mhm.
votes.
It's the electoral college, I understand
It
that.
doesn't go by the whole database of all true votes.
No, but you get the most votes in the state, you get the electoral college votes for that state, right? So it still depends on,
Do you know how much corruption is done by all of that even?
I couldn't believe how you guys elected George Bush II with the Florida chits and tickets and
yeah.
that was mind-boggling.
Chads.
Hanging Chad.
Hanging.
Yeah.
Cheney had the transition team, you know, in place and in Washington working before the Supreme Court even heard anything. The whole thing was just a foregone conclusion. It was mind-boggling, that whole thing.
If I didn't know that God was in control,
I know.
it would upset you. But you've got to go because he can do and put in and arrange and do whatever he wants, and we can play our little games. But
so it's interesting. We're now, you know, the conversation American politics. I don't know how this kind of equates to Canada. We are so much. We are. So, I think maybe we're just less dramatic about it. I don't know. Are we more? Is the system more honest? I don't know. Actually, given the electoral, what the robocalls.
Oh, that, yeah.
And
that was a scandal that they managed to somehow subdue, you know. I'm not going to comment on Mr. Harper and his ethics and integrity, but the thing about American politics is it impacts on the world mightily. If you read Stephen's blog lately about Israel, and how they have Obama in a corner until the election. A lot of things in the world hinge on American politics.
Sure.
The timing of American politics, who gets elected. So that's why it's.
Oh, no doubt. It's the elephant versus the mouse. When the elephant moves, it's hard not to be affected by it. It's a Canadian metaphor.
Okay.
It goes along the lines of if you're a mouse lying beside the elephant, when the elephant rolls over,
Ouch.
you're impacted.
If the elephant sneezes, we're the one that catches a cold. We grow up with this. We learned this in kindergarten.
Oh boy, that's how you guys. Okay, all right, guys. There we go.
That's right. You can see the deep-seated resentment right there, right?
I'm trying to suppress.
Let it go. Let it go.
Oh, the stereotypes.
You know, to go back to that earlier conversation where you were talking about Bradford and all of that, do you remember about 2-3 years ago when the gold was discovered in somewhere in England, somewhere in Wales, I think.
I didn't know
Staffordshire,
about
or it was on Stephen's blog.
Keep going, I'm forgetting.
Oh yeah, the coins in the
The
farm.
coins that were buried,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then there was also a belt, and it was the
that's
the
right.
saying on the belt was from Deuteronomy, or it was something about if God goes before us, something. I don't remember, but exactly what it was. But to me, it all fits in also with everybody waking up, and
Oh, yes.
because I think at the time, maybe pre-Renaissance, I don't have enough. They didn't teach us history in school, so especially any English history or our heritage. So I just think it all relates somehow. I kind of lost my train of thought here, but I think they knew pre-Renaissance some of these things that we know. I mean, there were, of course, they've always been true believers, but I just think there was what they call the Dark Ages, and I think right now we're almost in a Dark Ages, but we're waking up.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that discovery of that gold to me, and then the belt especially, just spoke volumes. And there's the unity of Canada and the United States.
There's no doubt Dark Ages and Light Ages are very relative. You can be in the Dark Ages and feel you've woken up and then realize you're still partly asleep and you're still waking up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like the Reformation, you're whatever, you know, you're still, we're all ex-Catholics. No matter how reformed we are,
Oh yeah.
right?
After Jesus, in a few centuries, it was.
It's just a paradigm for myself. I keep reminding myself that, you know, you look at people and they've a different topic, but they've maybe cast off the Eucharist or whatever from Catholic, you know, and we keep on kind of casting off Catholic ideas, and then we find out that we still have some, and we didn't even know about them. And then it isn't until you know about it that you end up going, oh, that's kind of a Catholic idea. Throw that one off too. It seems to be a progressive thing.
It is.
It's kind of like, kind of equated to light beer. You know, you have real beer and then you have light beer. Not that I drink beer necessarily, but, you know, in Canada here we used to have the commercials, you know, light beer, you know, tastes great, less filling. You know, it's kind of like Catholic, you know. The Protestants, less filling, or I don't know. It's a metaphor.
I don't know.
That might-
Catholic light, might be Lutheran.
Yeah. Good point, yeah. Well, I tell you, the Reformed Church is well represented down the hill there. When I came by, that parking lot is full.
Is it?
Yeah, lots of cars.
Oh, yeah.
Where did these people come from? It took me 2 days to learn how to say Gwillimbury. And these people are coming out of the woodwork. And
Oh, is it Gwillimbury?
Yeah.
Instead of Gwillimbury?
Oh, gee, I said it right. Great. Thank you, Walter.
There's a story about that. I'll tell you off
Okay.
camera.
But I like the G in the middle
Is that Welsh?
connection.
Gwillimbury.
So the story is
Oh golly, I'm not going to do this justice. My mother could do it much better. But Lord Grave Simcoe was the one that kind of surveyed the area and so forth. He was a governor of what was then, this was known as Upper Canada. Ontario was Upper Canada, Quebec was Lower Canada. Even if you look at them on the map, and Quebec seems higher. Anyway.
More connected to the seat of government than
It's lower geographically.
Yes,
yeah.
It just, you look, anyway, doesn't matter. We are here lower than Quebec, it seems, where we are
You
right
mean
here.
elevation? It's
Yeah.
higher and lower elevation, not north-south. All right, got it.
So this was known as Upper Canada. Lord Grave Simcoe kind of surveyed the area. Anyway, I believe his wife was Lady Gwilym, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Oh, Gwilym. Just reminds you of Guinevere.
I think that was her name.
Gwilymville.
Right. Where Bradford comes from, I'm not sure.
Oh, well, he started? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Most of the names of, like, there's townships, Tay and Tiny Township, they're named after her dogs. Almost all the area, that the counties and so forth are named after Lord Grave Simcoe and his wife's dogs or family or something like that.
Or anybody else connected to the throne. They're all across the city I live in, Windsor. You know, this comes from Windsor, England, one of the castles in the area. Geographical.
Well, I lived in Eudora, Kansas. It was by Lawrence, which is a college town, KU country.
Right.
And Eudora was the Native American Indians, kings, or, well, no, what do you call them? What do you call them? Chiefs. Daughter's name. So I lived in Little Eudora, Kansas, which was named after the Indian chief's daughter.
Right.
So we get their names in so many different forms and ways.
Yep. Well, it's about 12 o'clock, and I appreciate the little powwow here. I hope you all got something out of it, and I hope you've all gotten something out of the weekend. And again, I'm honored that you have all shown up. Honestly, I am, because you know, you throw something out there, and kind of like what Seth was talking about yesterday. You kind of you step out, and you might fail, and it might all be nothing. You never know.
Thank you for opening up your home.
Thank you.
Very much.
Well, you know, we've been on. You got the little story about this place yesterday, so we've been working on this for a bit, and knowing full well that this space was going to be used for stuff like this, and I expect it will be more so. So, all right.
Is there an actual site, Tom Mills Greenhouse, did you mention?
Greenhometv.org.
Greenhometv.org.
Right.
I think I wrote it down yesterday. I better write it down.
That's about the home.
Mm-hmm.
The solar stuff down the road, we're kind of focusing in at greenhomepowergeneration.com. It's kind of our little Green Home series of websites.
Green Home.
Interactive.
Green
Home Power Generation.
Power Generation.
Right. Where we're kind of dealing with the solar stuff down there.
I put the other one, but not that. I don't know about that.
And we've been doing some podcasts at greenhomeinteractive.com. But they're all linked from the
Green Home
They're all linked from the main place.
Power
Interactive.com.
Green Home Power Interactive.
Green Home Power Generation is the solar stuff.
Power Generation.
But again, if you go to Green Home TV, there's links there to the other stuff.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Green Home TV. Will
.org.
all right.
There's links there to the other ones.
TV.org.
That's right.
Okay. My stepdaughter in Toronto, where we're staying, she works for an architectural firm downtown.
There you
And
go.
she's involved in some like restoration projects.
Yeah.
Hey, that's pretty cool. In churches.
Yeah.
And also, she's involved in some of this, what you were showing us yesterday.
Yeah.
So I was telling her about it this morning.
Sure.
Yeah. So she's going to go on.
If I pass this around, would you guys put your names and what town you're in?
Tom, are you going to send that out, or are you just going to do the emails?
You know,
Just for my prayer.
Oh, sure.
Just when
Yeah.
I'm praying, I'm connected. I'm not debating, but I I'm here for,
If you want
to
it
be
down
an
on paper,
intercessor.
I'll gladly put
And,
mine.
What I did was I started building a database of people that had emailed saying they wanted to watch online, people that said they were coming.
Here, no,
and
do
I
this
tried to,
blank
wherever
one.
possible, kind of put people's location
Take
with it.
this
So
for the- I'm sorry, Tom.
no problem. So I can email that out as well.
I mean, even just your name and
Matt.
the town you live in, if you want to add your phone number and your email, that's great. But just as for my prayer times, that as a body, as we met, that I can be, meditating, thinking on it. Thank you, guys.
There.
Yeah, if you could correlate that or something.
Even if
Sure.
you only want your first name in
Yeah.
your town, whatever you're willing to put.
That would be helpful.
Actually, whatever you throw on that sheet, I might take that and add that into the database.
Oh, well then be more complete for him.
So now you're going to get the name, city, then the address.
There.
An email.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think. I think we'll let you all go this afternoon.